Hello everyone. We are now going to be looking at the sheep kidney. And so the very first thing we're going to do is try to identify what these tubes are. Okay, so in order to do that, you need some basic information. The first is that these top two, these ones are going to be blood vessels, and the biggest one, that one is going to be the ureter. Okay, so that one I know is the ureter. One thing that might be helpful, it might be helpful for you to take a little bit of the connective tissue off. Sometimes they're all kind of stuck together. I think mine are pretty well separated now. So the biggest one is the ureter. And then to identify the other two, you want to look at, kind of feel them. So this one right here that's kind of big but flat like a ribbon, that is going to be the renal vein. And the one that is more substantial, it's rounder, it feels thicker, that's going to be the renal artery. Okay, and the reason for that is because arteries are higher pressure, they have a thicker tunica media so that they have more elastic tissue, they can stretch and recoil back down. So round like a rope, artery, flat like a ribbon, vein. And then the biggest one is going to be the ureter. Okay, and then the surrounding the outside, so this part where those three structures enter into the kidney, that's going to be the hilum. And the other thing that you can find is on the very, very outside, this kind of tough membrane around the outside, that's going to be the fibrous capsule. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a frontal section. So the kidney would look like this, well, actually probably like that, in the sheep or the human. Okay, so we're going to cut it like this and kind of flap it open like a book. Okay, so when you are cutting, you're going to need your scalpel. And remember, the scalpels are very sharp. Never ever cut in your hand. Always cut towards the tray. And the other thing is, do not saw back and forth. You want to do strong, decisive cuts only in one single direction. Okay, and it's going to take several cuts to make it all the way through. You just keep cutting, cutting and cutting and cutting until you get all the way through. I like to do kind of one side and then do the other side. Okay. So now we just need to identify everything. That's all the cutting there is. Okay, so remember this outside here, that's the fibrous capsule. And then there's two general regions inside of the kidney. This outside here is called the renal cortex. And then this inside here that's darker and has a different texture, that is going to be the renal medulla. And in the renal medulla you have two general structures. See this structure right here, these dark parts, those are the renal pyramids. And at the very tips of the renal pyramids you have this, well, a tip of the pyramid, that is going to be the renal medulla. Sorry, it's the wrong word. Renal papilla. Okay, so the renal papilla, which would be this one right here. See the little tip right there? Renal papilla. Okay, so between the renal pyramids, the lighter structures between, that would be the renal columns. Okay, renal column right there. Okay, so the nephrons, excuse me, sorry. The nephrons for the kidney is going to be found predominantly in the cortex there. And you have the loop of Henle's kind of going down into the renal pyramids, but mostly in the cortex there. And so the collecting ducts, where all the urine comes, is going to travel down through the pyramid. So if you look carefully at your pyramids, depending on how well you cut it, mine's a little rough, you'll see some striped texturing here. That striped texturing, those are the collecting ducts running through the renal pyramids. And so they're going to dump all of their urine that's created into the calyxes, or calyx. Okay, so calyces if it's plural, calyx if it's singular. And so you have two of them, two types. You have the major calyx or minor calyx. So if you have just one pyramid dumping into the calyx, it's going to be a minor calyx. Or if you have multiple pyramids dumping into it, kind of merging together, that would be a major calyx. Okay, so like maybe right here. So minor calyx, major calyx, and then see this part right here. This becomes like a shallow basin where all of the calyces come together. So this area here would be the renal pelvis. Renal pelvis. Okay, so renal cortex, renal medulla, the whole region, renal pyramid with the little renal papilla at the end, renal columns between the pyramids, major and minor calyces, or a major calyx with an X, or calyces if it's plural, dumping into the renal pelvis, and then it would then exit out through the ureter and go to the urinary bladder. That's everything.